All right, for number 5, we're asked to solve this inequality. 4x squared plus 6x is less than or equal to 12 minus 7x. So let's start by getting one side of this inequality equal to 0. So let's add 7x to both sides. And let's also subtract 12 from both sides. So we get 4x squared plus 13x minus 12 is less than or equal to 0. All right, so now we want to get where the zeros of this would be if this were equal to 0. If this were an equation, where would the solutions be? And so we need to factor this. To factor this, let's factor it by grouping. Let's split this center term and factor by grouping. So to figure out how we're going to split that second term, we need to multiply 4 times negative 12. That's negative 48. And so we need two numbers that multiply to negative 48 and add to 13. So that's going to be positive 16 and negative 3. So we're going to split this 13x. So this will be 4x squared plus 16x minus 3x minus 12. So all we've done is we've taken that 13 and we've split it into 16x minus 13x, or minus 3x. Now we can group this. So 4x squared plus 16x will be in one group, and then the other group will be the negative 3x minus 12. And now let's take a common factor out of that. We can take a 4x out of this. 4x. And we're left with x plus 4. Over here, let's take a negative 3 out. And we're left with x plus 4. And now we've got a common factor in both terms of x plus 4. So let's factor that out. And we're left with 4x minus 3. And that's less than or equal to 0. So the zeros of this function, the places where the graph of this function would cross the x-axis, are going to be, if x plus 4 is 0, then x is negative 4. If 4x minus 3 is equal to 0, then x is positive 3/4. So let's sketch a graph of this. So we're going to have 1, 0 at negative 4. So let's put that right about there. And we're going to have 1, 0 at 3/4. So let's put that right around there. And now we need to think about what type of shape this graph is going to have. Notice that it's a quadratic, so it's going to be a parabola. And the leading term is positive, and so it's going to be opening up. So we know it's going to be shaped something like this. That wasn't a great job of drawing there. But we know that it's going to, we're not really worried about how far down this goes. What we're concerned with is that we get our zeros and that we've got this parabola going in the right direction. Because now we look up to our inequality here and see what we want is where this is less than or equal to 0. So that's going to be this part here. We're going to include the zeros and then everything below the x-axis. So that's this part down there. That's the piece where this function is going to be less than or equal to 0. So we're going to write our solution in interval notation. This is going to go from negative 4 to 3/4. And we're going to include negative 4 and 3/4 because this is less than or equal to 0. So we want to include those points where the function is equal to 0.